So this is the Montgomery Ward and Company catalog number 57, Spring and Summer 1895. It's a catalog and buyer's guide, and it's, as you can see, it's very big. So let's see what kind of deals are available. There's a little introduction verse that sort of talks about what this catalog was like and what a part of life it was back in the 1800s. This catalog was, in many cases, this was people's outlet to civilization, especially people out west, where there was not a lot of retail stores available, where they had to subsist on very little. The Montgomery Ward catalog was a way for them to get things to make the creature comforts and the necessities to make their lives more manageable. Now, at this point of the book, it's all reprint. It's all exactly the way this catalog appeared well over a century ago. And it gives you the instructions on how to order and so forth. And then here's the form for ordering and the index. So if you just want to look for a certain thing, you can find it easily. And it's a huge index because this was a huge catalog. Buy a bicycle. Dairy supplies. If you were out west and you were wanting to set up a dairy and you needed the equipment, Montgomery Ward's got you covered. (111 to 116 Michigan Avenue). It was huge. Then we start off with belts of fabric. Of course, back in those days, in many cases, when people needed clothes, they got a pattern and they bought the fabric and did the work themselves. It's to make toys. Like, my mom even made things like this when I was a kid. I think there was a little bit of a resurgence in making like the little plush cats. In this case, is a tabby cat pattern, and you filled it up with some kind of stuffing and you made a toy. Or here's a doll. So these are basically toys to make. And as you can see, this was a big deal. These were the popular patterns in 1895. Now we get to the actual dresses that ladies wore. This was the Victorian period, as you can probably make out by looking at these dresses. Gonna have some coffee. Now, if you were running a business out west, here were the business materials, the accounting books and so forth that you would need. Business supplies. And then we get to like classroom stuff. Say you were a teacher, say you were working in a schoolhouse, these were the things you would need. You'd need a globe, you'd need an atlas, you'd need dictionary holders. Edison's Handy Encyclopedia. An encyclopedia set was probably a must-have for a schoolhouse. Here's some other books. The White House Cookbook. Books on birds, sportsman books, fruits and flowers, science books. I mean, there was no Barnes and Noble, so here's your classics like Little Women, 10 Nights in a Bar Room, Horatio Alger books, The Arabian Nights, Charlotte and Emily Bronte, Bill Nye's History of the United States. I mean, this is how you got the books. You ordered the classics you wanted to stock in the library, or the reference books, or the nonfiction. But they pretty much, if you flip through this catalog, you'll find that almost all of the important classics of the time were here. Whether it was Mark Twain or like I said, the Arabian Nights or William Shakespeare. Just amazing, as you can see. An amazing list of different book titles to add to your collection. Black Beauty, the horse story. Cartoon books. Egypt Illustrated for Napoleon, Ireland, travel books. It's really amazing. And now we got to religious books, different Bibles, different styles of Bibles, Catholic Bibles, Swedish Bibles, Bibles in different languages. Now we get into lace. Lots of lace doilies. This was the Victorian time after all. Lace was pretty huge. And now imagine that you're... What in the world is that? Cupid snap waist for children. That just does not look comfortable. Now we're imagine you're living in this time period. You're somewhere out west, and the only store in town maybe just sells very basic stuff like coffee and cornmeal, and if you're lucky, and you want to buy your wife a nice hairbrush, you want a toothbrush, you want things like this, a comb. And say your general store just has such a limited supply, this is how you would get it. Say different soaps, if you wanted to feel cleaner. This is makeup, cosmetics. Fountain pens, knit pins. Erasers, photo albums, dice games, chess pieces, poker chips, stuff that Victorian women liked, like fans, hair extensions, weaving irons. Here's ladies' hats, pocket watches, beautiful men's pocket watches with all kinds of different designs that you would pick for your personality. Say you liked horses, or you were a hunter, you worked in the railroad industry. These pocket watches, you would find one that would suit your personality. Say you were in the Shriners, watchmaker tools. So you're out west, you're a watchmaker, you need to replenish your tools. This is where you go. Here's jeweler stuff. And keep in mind we're in the Victorian time period, so as we look at these different rings, just notice some of the designs on them. Different chain. A lot of jewelry stuff here. And there was one ring in particular I wanted to show you that I thought was interesting. These are little charms, like a charm bracelet charm. Oh, this one. See the skull and crossbones? I just find that interesting. That was a popular design. Wow. All this different jewelry. Silver-plated brownie pin, the latest novelty. I mean, some of the stuff, it's very interesting. All kinds of Masonic Shriners, the different men's organizations, the Knights Templar. More fountain pens. Some nice scissors. Aluminum, pure aluminum ware. Here we get to your silverware. You can get it monogrammed. I think most households wanted to have a fine set of like a tea set and a silverware set. That was something they would be proud of, that they could pull out when they had company. A shaving mug for the all this stuff is the sort of things, and you know, people would sit here and flip through this catalog, even if they weren't buying it, they would fantasize about owning these items. Even if the prices don't seem very high, but you gotta figure, say this Buffalo Bill clock ornament was $1.35. $1.35 back then was a lot more money than it is now. With inflation, an average salary in 1895 for a man, if it were $20 a month, that would be good. And generally, at this time period, it was the man was the only one bringing home a salary. This is before it was socially acceptable for women to get jobs in many cases. Not all cases, but in many cases. So many of these households were dependent on one income. We even have electric motors, telephones. This is the real high-tech stuff. $18 for that telephone. That's generally more than a take-home pay for an entire month for an average household. Magnet electrical batteries. This is the high-tech stuff. This is like Apple and Google and all that for back then. Now we have medical tools. If you were a doctor, you could buy bone saws and, well, actually this is veterinary tools, but you know what, physicians would all, if that's all they could get, that's what they would get. The photographic goods, a camera. I mean, we're talking high tech right here. Wow, $21. That was a lot of money back then. $14.60. $45. If you were a professional photographer, that $45 investment for that camera was a lot of money. And all the tools for processing photographs. Any profession you had, a doctor, a lawyer, a photographer, an artist. You could find the tools you needed in this catalog. Now, what we're in right now is one of my favorite sections. This is toys. And look at these old Victorian era toys. I mean, marbles, toy trains. I mean, these are, you might see these if you go into a thrift store. These like little scenes made out of cast iron, heavy miniatures, rubber animals. Basically, you go into the store now, you can buy a big, polyethylene bag full of dinosaurs or animals. That was this right here. A toy rubber cat, a turtle, yo-yos, climbing monkey, toy watches, army men, toy soldiers, a toy warship Columbia. Listen to this description to this Buffalo Bill toy. And keep in mind, Buffalo Bill was an incredibly popular celebrity at this time. He did a traveling show. This is a new departure in wooden toys and is decidedly novel in every respect. It illustrates vividly how Buffalo Bill and his scouts overcame a party of ambuscaded Indians. Best thing out. Price, 75 cents. The descriptions are amazing. This coach, horse-drawn coach, Cinderella Coach with blocks, a fine representation of an elegant coach with driver and footmen, drawn by a pair of horses, all lithographed in light colors and highly ornamented. The coach contains a set of blocks illustrating the story of Cinderella and the glass slipper. Length of coach, 10 inches. Height, 11.5 inches. Packed in box, 90 cents. This is a toy for a little girl. Noah's Ark. This toy has been a seller ever since the flood and probably will be as long as the world stands. Noah's Ark filled with neatly painted animals. Flat Ark each, 10 cents per dozen, $1. Weight, a half pound. And you know what? You can still find toy Noah's Arks. It's really interesting. I find that the toys to be some of the most interesting things. Whether it's toys for little boys or toys for little girls, like dolls. Paper doll sets, doll heads, so, here's board games. Parlor games, card games. Now we get into the more expensive goods. My grandparents have one of these organs, exactly like one of these. I believe it's close to this model right here. These organs were $60, $63, $37, and you're asking why is there a whole section devoted to organs and pianos? Because that was entertainment. That was the equivalent of the computer or the television or the radio. None of these things really existed. So sheet music and an organ, that was the entertainment. That was an essential thing. If you had a house, you needed an instrument. Here's the accordion. I guess if you had a small house, you got the harmonica. But music was a big deal back then because we didn't have radio, we didn't have record players, we didn't have TV. So you bought sheet music and you bought an instrument. An organ was a great thing. You put it in the parlor, someone would play it, and people would sing along, and that was entertainment. Here's artist equipment. Oil painting outfit, $1.80, $6 for this beautiful set right here. jewelry cases, jewelry boxes, photograph cases, smoking sets. Smoking was a big deal back then. Extracts, which were, basically spices. Here we get some chemicals. If you were, in some cases, for, I guess if you were a pharmacist, or if you just needed certain things like quinine or borax, Epsom salts. These were household chemicals that were used for lots of things. Epsom salts was a medicinal thing. Sulfur, a lot of these things were mixed with water to cure different kinds of ailments. Cook's Bay rum, that's cologne. Hair pomade. Handy pocket goods. Lozenges. Chlorate potash. Chlorate potash. Soda mint. A sewing machine. Oh boy, yeah, some essential stuff here. And how much was the sewing machine? $20. That's a lot of money. A month's income. Gentlemen's clothing and young boys. Children. Here's different types of hats. Planter hats, cowboy hats. The 1895 veteran hats for Civil War veterans. That looks a little creepy. Negligee overshirts. Summer underwear. This is the underwear of the time. Gloves. Cloaks. Stuff is really interesting. I mean, it's the best kind of time capsule because you see all of the trends for this year. You see everything that people wanted. This is, if you were wanting to write a story or do something about 1895, this is a must-have, so you would know down to the finest detail what people would have had or wanted. Horse stuff, obviously, most people didn't have. There were automobiles at this point, but horses were still the preferred method of transportation. All of the various things to take care of horses, like brushes and, saddles. A good saddle probably cost a lot of money. $22.50 was a lot of money. $35 was a considerable amount of money. And I think this one here, the Pride of the West, $37.25. That's probably the most premium saddle you could get. And I probably think even then, if you ordered your saddle from the Montgomery Ward catalog, you're still probably considered kind of lame, because I'm sure that out west you would buy your saddle from a craftsman. I'm just guessing that a leather craftsman probably. Blue jeans. And we have wallpaper. The Victorian prints of wallpaper. If you ever go and take an old house tour, you'll see some of this. Rugs. And we get to hardware. These are planes. Lots of planes. Shaping wood, smoothing wood, saws, cutting wood. Tools, lathes, chisels. Woodworking was much more prevalent back then for obvious reasons. We didn't have the mass-produced, clap-together houses like we do now. So a carpenter was much more needed back then to make homes. Hardware door handles. You can still go, where I live in the South, you can still go into old houses and find these door handles still being used. All that kinds of different hardware. To me, this stuff is just so fascinating. I mean, rakes, pitchforks, shovels. It's fish scaler, steak pounder, ice pick. This is like you're a butcher. You work in a store that sells different types of meats. You're gonna need these things. Apple parers, this is either stuff if you had a really big kitchen and you were feeding a crew of workmen, or if you had a restaurant. Here's the tools, here's the equipment you need. Wheelbarrows. We get to, down to the part. I mean, just the part you really need for the plumbing jobs in 1895 you're going to be doing. What is this? Skullenbones. Steam piston packing. We call it this because it is death to delays. This is a special quality of round rubber core piston packing, lubricated entirely with the best quality Dixon's graphite, and will outrun other packing threefold, made in the following sizes. Interesting. Fountain spray pump if you're doing pesticide or you're spraying plants, or metallic ice rack. They stored ice back then in sawdust, and they would get ice during the winter, pack it in the ice house, put it in sawdust to keep it, and then that was the ice that would last them all through the summer. Here's just stoves. The stove is another thing. The house wasn't complete without a stove, and look how much they cost. $33.80. We're talking 3-4 months of salary right there, assuming you had no bills to pay. A stove was expensive. A stove, if you read old letters written in the 1800s, and if a stove was purchased, that would be 3 or 4 letters worth of talking about it. This was one of the biggest purchases. And I have some old letters, and a wife is writing to her husband talking about her stove so much, and what a godsend it was. Teapots, coffee pots, aluminum, all of the cookware, bakingware, hotel cake turners. I just love. Pocket knives. I have a pocket knife. You've probably seen some of my videos that my dad gave to me. I think if you're a guy, and if your dad gives you a pocket knife, that's just something that you never lose. And straight razors. And here we have shotguns. If you were out west, I'm sure a shotgun was needed for hunting, for protection. It was just more of a tool than anything else. Now we get to the Winchester repeating rifle, which was one of the most modern rifles at the time. And how much did this Winchester cost? $15.21. Okay, the factory price was $21. Montgomery Ward would sell it to you for $14.18. Let's see. other repeating rifles, and the bullets. And if you were a gunsmith, this is where you picked up your tools. All the different parts. Here's some pistols. And all the ammunition. More reloading, gunsmithing, powder, DuPont chemical. This is still reloading and gunsmithing supplies. Hunting supplies, decoys, hunting hats, vests, hunting belts, stuff for your hunting dogs. Here's your sporting equipment. Baseballs, baseball caps, catcher's masks, boxing gloves, footballs, leather football helmets, fencing equipment, fishing equipment. Here's like exercise, weight, all the fishing stuff, fishing hooks, lures and bait and so forth. I'm telling you, whatever you needed. Here's your outdoor stuff, your tents, wagon covers, a little skiff, canoes. You're out hunting, you want to smoke your pipe, here's the pipes, U.S. flags, made of standard wool bunting, pipe smoking was big. Here's a boot and shoes department. Very ornate looking shoes with all the buttons and beaver button leather box. All of these different shoes and boots. Crockery. All the different patterns. Another must-have in your home. You pick the style of plate and crockery that suits your personality. Here's your more nice stuff that you'd put in the old china cabinet. And your glasses. Before Dollar General, when you can just go buy yourself a whole set of glasses. I mean, back then, you had to get it from here. Glass goblets and intricate stuff. Here's your lighting. All the different beautiful Victorian designs of lamps and lighting. Now we get to the bicycle department. And really, there's just a few to choose from. We get to some pop culture-y kind of youth bicycling clothing. How you stylish bicycle clothing. So, baby carriages. Steamer trunks, tricycles, swing sets. The trunks were, if you were going on a steamboat, if you were traveling by train, you needed, this is luggage basically, specific luggage to put different things in. If you're a professional, to put your tools in. And then we get to more your dairy equipment. If you were running a dairy out west, cheese factory, milk cans, milk coolers, This is before you could go buy a gallon of milk. This is when you had to churn your own butter. This is when you had to do all the work yourself if you wanted milk and butter and cheese. Coffee, spice, and drug mills to grind your coffee beans. Here we go to buggies. The horse and buggy. That was a comfortable way to travel. Here's your farming equipment. The Montgomery War Company's windmill. You can buy a whole windmill. Portable platform scales to weigh your cattle. I mean, you could get anything. Now, granted, this stuff's gonna be arriving on trains, so you'd have to make your way to the train station to get it. Some cases, that might have been a week-long trip to pick up the items you purchased, but unless there was a mail service. Here's some furniture. Beautiful Victorian furniture. Love seats and couches. Davenports, ottomans, china cabinets, vanities, bookcases, sideboards, nightstands, accounting desks, hat racks, end tables, rocking chairs, wheelchairs. Everything you ever needed was just a catalog from away. And that is it. That is a tour of this catalog. And I really hope you enjoyed it. I've got other catalogs like this from different years. And if you liked this video, let me know and I'll do another one. And if you find this stuff as interesting as I do, let me know, because I mean, I think to me this is some of the most fascinating stuff I can look through, and I sure hope you feel the same way. So, see you tomorrow night. Bye.